Now we should have audio for YouTube. Alright, so we'll get some of this going here. Alright, let's move this just a hair. Alright, so we're screen sharing. We're going through that. Let's see if I do, well, that's only going to show on there, but okay. Alright, we'll go ahead, and that gives everyone a few moments. So I want to welcome you all. I am Christine Van Pelt, and I am state coordinator for the Indiana Assembly, as well as the lead recording secretary. I want to welcome you all to the call, and please go ahead and put at least your first name in whatever chat you're in, and make sure you put which county that you're on, so that we can make sure and get you recognized as well, because we want to welcome you, right? All right, so hopefully we're going to help get you through some more questions. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a one and done once the paperwork is done, but at least starting to get some clarity on things as we move forward in our second session for new member orientation. So we'll go ahead and get the Bivens Declaration in. This is a public meeting. Anyone in this meeting claiming any form of U.S. citizenship or employment with any federal agency is now, for the next segment of this gathering, new member orientation class, invited to either declare your presence and business here, or we ask you to leave the class at this time. I will repeat, if you are a U.S. citizen or an undeclared federal agent, please raise your hand or post a comment in the chat, or we ask you to leave the class at this time. It's not that you're not welcome, just identify yourself. We'd like to welcome you, and hopefully you'll be able to learn something as we go through this. And let's see, hearing and seeing none. Okay. We'll go ahead and continue. I will repeat, if you are a U.S. citizen or an undeclared federal agent, please raise your hand or vacate our gathering, or again, leave a chat in the comment in the chat. All right, hearing and seeing none. For the third and final time, this is notice that if you don't respond appropriately to this Bivens Declaration immediately, you are made fully liable for your lack of disclosure, and any so-called evidence that you collect is tainted and inadmissible. No one can attend any of our meetings in secret or in private without answering to a roll call or without announcing or declaring their presence. All right, so let's get some things going. So now, there has been some major issues with the email server system. So we've got to be able to work together to make sure and communicate, because a lot of the free email servers, like that are connected to Alphabet corporations, right? They're popping them into spam or junk. And if you don't see it and you don't go in and manually click report not spam, or if it does say phishing, you want to report not phishing, right? Then you have to go back into your inbox and then actually select to confirm the email. But I have one of those 3-letter agency Alphabet Soup email servers there, and I had to do it a good 3 times of going in report not spam before it finally actually kicked in to stay popping into my inbox. But you really should make it a regular habit of checking your junk, spam, promotions folders every day, because you never know what gets popped in there anyway. And a lot of people are finding that that's where they're losing a lot of emails, okay? As well as then each time you've gone through, confirmed that those emails within that within that spam or junk or promotions folder, every time you've confirmed that that you don't need them, make sure you delete them before you leave. And then that way it's also not building up, and you don't have to reweed through all of those emails that you may miss something. Okay, so get a regular routine of that. Now we've had to change email server, so at the end of the call in the YouTube description will be the PDF to this. or if you can get a screenshot, to go to this link and actually go, because you have to go to that email server and to the list and sign up. I cannot do it for you because of all the anti-spam policies. Okay, so if you don't follow through with this process, I can't get our regular emails out to you. Okay, and it's not just emails about regular assembly calls, it's also about regular training on how to walk as an American, where we're getting all together and starting to support each other within the community. So please go there and make sure that you are going to that link to sign up. I will read it out loud, and maybe I might be able to put it in the chat later. But it's, of course, the https / Z as in zebra, C as in cat, period, V as in Victor, G as in good, / S as in Sam, F as in Frank, / G as in good, uppercase U for under, and then back to lowercase d as in dog, uppercase F for Frank, and lowercase w for widget. ZC.VG / SF / G, uppercase U, lowercase d, uppercase F, lowercase w. All right. And this is really, and you got to read the emails as well, and don't think that that you're just getting multiples of the same thing. Sometimes you are, but there's usually a reason for the repeated. Something wasn't completed in that process, so that's why it's going back through. So it's to help you read through it. There's a lot to be able to work through. Alright, so a summary from last week's class. The Belcher Safeguard put in place by the founders allowed the assemblies to be called into session after a long slumber. The Federation has oversight authority until a state is fully assembled to ensure the protection of all Americans upon the land and soil. And so everyone needs to consider why they're a part of the assembly and why they corrected their status. And it's okay if it's that we all are wanting a better life, right? And I have good news I want to make sure I share along the way somewhere. Hopefully I'll remember. Land, air, and water jurisdictions we went through. So there's the air jurisdiction is through the Pope. It's municipal, and it's global, universal. However, it's that municipal that your water company, that's your city police, that's municipal. C is the British Crown, territorial, that's international, continental, and that is going to be a lot of the actual federal level. And then of course land, and that's us, Americans, and it's the nation states that make up the Union, and we're all under the public law. So part one now of this segment, we're going to go through the assembly structure, the 4 pillars. You'll hear it constantly. There are 4 pillars, but there are 4 different assemblies that are the pillars that hold the whole state assembly up as a whole. Assembly officers and assembly etiquette. So American state citizen status requirements and American state national requirements we're going to go through in this presentation. The assembly structure, which will be a rough overview of the 4 pillars, and then of course etiquette during General Assembly meetings and large committees, so points of order to give you some idea of how to behave, as well as a link to the actual assembly points of order to be able to support you in further detail. And then of course going through the affirmation of purpose and conduct. Alright, so originally the power went from the soil, which the soil level is the counties, and then the land is the state itself, right? This meant that the counties used the states of the Union as an interface with other nations. Okay, so each state is a nation of its own, as well as then other countries, because it's a country. We're our own country. Indiana is its own country that's its own nation. This was done to prevent any one county from, and this meant, okay, so the reason that it went in this manner, from the soil to the land, so it meant that the counties used the states of the Union as that interface. So that is so that it can prevents any one county from aligning itself with another nation. So it's to stop any type of infiltration. Okay, so that's why it's very important that we also want to focus on our border counties, where we want to have amicable and peaceful relations with bordering state counties. We have Michigan to the north, Ohio to the east, Kentucky to the south, and Illinois to the west. We want to make sure that we have amicable and peaceful relations with those counties, but they're not a part of our assembly. Okay. Now they may need to come. They may want to come and share, just because it's an opportunity to be able to come connect and get together, because some of those counties are very interlocked. But they would only be able to come and join some of like the general education, and they can come to the General Assembly calls. It's just they wouldn't be able to, of course, speak or vote on anything at that point, because that's only for those that are living on Indiana. Okay, so right now we're working in the opposite direction. The state assemblies need to be stood up, and as we repopulate the state assembly, the counties are populated by default, right? Because when you're presenting yourself to the state assembly, it's automatically presenting to your county, because that's where you live. That's the county that you live on. So it's a twofold by default. Okay, so but you have to present to your state in order so that it counts with the county as well. Eventually, the county assemblies will meet more than the state assembly once the state is stood up, because then a lot more will be handled on the county. Once the state gets the main things in play, then the counties will start working in their own thing. And that, by nature, then will then support what's going on at the state level. All right, so we have American state nationals. And we're comparing now the difference between, not comparing as to one is better than the other. It's just what capabilities you can be, what role, capacity you're able to fill as a national compared to a citizen. Okay, because you're going to need to make that decision. But it's also when you have to think about it. Don't immediately jump to citizen, because you're still in the memory of what the U.S. citizen means, because that is not correct. So you need to really look at and do some homework as to what an American state citizen means, as to, is that the role you actually want to fill? Okay, and it means you have to, if you're saying you're a citizen, it means it's an action item. Being a citizen means you're going to have to actually do something that is supporting the state. Whereas as a national, there's no duty, and we'll discover this more. Americans born within the borders of a state acquire their nationality at birth. Naturalized U.S. citizens can declare their status as an American state national if they have gone through the U.S. immigration process, or have a green card, or they can even do 7-year undocumented from this going through the U.S. government, but they'll still have to provide documentation of 7 years for the assembly, as that they've lived on the land of America, one of the states, for at least 7 years, and also for Indiana for at least a year and a day if they're wanting to step up. Okay? And of course, they have to live on Indiana at the time when their status correcting. Okay, so we remain American state nationals until the age of 21, because here the lawful age is 21, whereas legal age is 18. So we're going to have to do a lot of work in helping with those that are between 18 and 21. That's it's a gray area that we have to work with. And then some even at 16 and some at 13 if they were able to emancipate, for whatever that's worth. So those are still things that we have to work through on that. Okay, we'll keep going. So remain until the age of 21, and we can choose to act as state citizens if there are no dual loyalties or dual citizenships. Okay, and that means they didn't go ahead and get a driver's license. They didn't go ahead and go through the W-2 process with an employer, things like that, to be able to, if their baby deed was put on the record by a status corrected national, their parent or grandparent. And make sure if you are a parent or grandparent, have a birth certificate and put together do the baby deed process for all babies under the lawful age of 21, so we can make sure and at least protect them as much as we can in that period. All right, so a state citizen. So pay attention. The word citizen always implies that there's going to be an obligation to serve some level or form of government. No exception here, right? We weren't all so willing to go for jury duty, but some were excited about going. My very first time I was called for jury duty, way back when, it was 90s, early 90s. I was called for my first jury duty, and I was so excited, and they canceled it before I ever got there. I was like, ah! But I was so excited. I thought, that's part of what I'm supposed to do, right? To be able to help support. But so why don't you want to help support the jury pool at this point? Because all status corrected are in the jury pool. That doesn't mean you're going to serve on every jury, but you're all at least in the jury pool. So another perk as to why you would want to status correct, right? When we're old enough to accept the responsibility and understand the obligations involved, we become eligible to act as citizens of our state of the union. So a maturity comes with that, right? So that's why 21 as opposed to 18. You remember what you were like at 18. Albeit you remember what you were probably like at 21. But I'm sure, hopefully, it was more mature than 18. A state citizen must be free to make decisions impacting their state and its international relations with other nation states with a clear mind and open conscience, unaffected by mixed loyalties to any other master, dual loyalties, and dual citizenships. Okay? But that doesn't mean that you go through all of that state, you want to be a state citizen, but when it's time to actually step up to do something and then you're odd, and you've got to not let the fear of the potential of can they stop me or they're going to take something, what's going on. You've got to stand in who you are. Remember, you're a child of God and you're claiming your birthright inheritance. It's time. Remember who you are. Wake up. Come on. And that means wake up and get up. Get out of the armchair. Stop being an armchair quarterback. It's time to be we the people. State citizens voluntarily occupy an office of personhood in order to serve the interests of the international jurisdiction of their state of the union. It is voluntary. However, once the people on Indiana, we the people of, by, and for, we the people, actually start supporting the General Assembly Fund, then the General Assembly can determine if a salary would be available to be able to apply to positions and as they come along. But it's also up to the General Assembly to ensure that funding is made available to fund those employees, to fund our personhood that are standing in citizenship for us. Okay, we've got to be able to find, that's all of us doing every bit of this. There is no IRS strong arm that's bullying the employer to steal the pay. This is all you voluntarily supporting your actual true government. If you are really we the people, it's of, by, for, and of, by, for the people. That means we have to actually participate as citizens and nationals. Because there's a lot that can be done as nationals. So much can be done as nationals. Nationals play a huge role. Okay, let's see if there's any questions before we go to assembly structure. All right, Carroll County. Welcome, John. Great to see you. Thanks for coming. All right. Okay. We'll see on the others if there are no. Okay. All right. I don't see any questions. All right, we'll keep right on going. All right, so assembly structure. So it's the 4 pillars. Get used to this. You're going to hear this a lot. You're going to see this a lot. Okay? The 4 pillars. So for a foundational understanding, we are not building a corporation. So corporate business structures do not apply here. We are committee-based. That means everyone working together in self-governance for the betterment of their community. We work by committees to achieve this harmony. And therefore, you have to actually show up. It's great to keep up with the videos and go back and keep up with what's going on and be able to go in to take deep notes. But it's important to actually show up, so that where you're all at the table at the same time to be able to come together to start getting the work done. Because it's, you all are the ones that are you all are to do this work. I'm only bringing you all together. That's the part of the coordinator. You guys are you are the ones that are having to do the actual work. I can't do the work because I am the liaison for the Federation. So that's why I'm only the coordinator, where it has to come from you. You, the people, have to be the ones to actually get in and show up and do this. Each state assembly consists of one body politic composed of all declared state nationals and state citizens living within the boundaries of each state. Many are misunderstand and think they can go to where they go to present to the state assembly of where they were born, or where they would like to move or have lived. It doesn't matter at that point. It's where you're calling home, where you live today is that state assembly that you present your paperwork to, and that's where you start supporting, that's your community. So anyone who qualifies by birthright or by legal naturalization process and lives in a state on a permanent basis declares and records their political status as a state national or state citizen so long as they remain in honor. And they have to have lived on the state a year and a day to actually step up into committee work and elected roles. All right? And that is because that's part of having that allegiance to your state, to your own land, as opposed to just anybody coming in. And now something to remember, as far as there is only one rightful, lawful assembly. The Indiana Assembly is the only one that is connected to the Federation directly with Audubon rights. Okay, any other assembly name, the National Assembly out there, or any other form of name like that, are not the land and soil jurisdiction connected to the lawful state assembly, that there is only one. Okay, this is the Indiana Assembly. All right, so any other name that you see out there, the National Assembly, none of those are relative to us. We are actual part of the Federation. and where this is the assembly that has the is getting the guidance directly from the Federation. All right, so the 4 pillars. So you've got the General Assembly, the International Business Assembly, the Jural Assembly, and the Assembly Militia. All right, so the General Assembly, this is everybody. This is where everybody comes. Whether you've presented paperwork or not, but you live on Indiana today. You have a permanent home. You don't have a permanent residence. You have a permanent home. You're permanently domiciled. You permanently live on Indiana. Okay? The General Assembly provides a public discussion and decision forum for intrastate business and acts as a committee of the whole to decide issues of general interest, conducts elections, and provides oversight for all assembly functions. That includes all functions for the International Business Assembly, the Jural Assembly, and the Assembly Militia. Everything comes through the General Assembly. It is the driver of everything. It all starts in the General Assembly. The International Business Assembly is composed entirely of state citizens that have canceled all contracts, ensuring no dual loyalties of any kind. They're the ones that are actually eligible and qualified to conduct the international business of the Assembly. And so you can see there'll be a link here for the federal record for Indiana's of what has already been dealt with for international business so far. The Jural Assembly, and so again, now the Business Assembly is state citizens only, and they've had to present they had to have presented the 928s, at least the full 928 bundle with that, as well as all cancellations. There cannot be any dual interest. If there are some licenses, so to speak, the vetting committee would have to determine, based on what the licenses are as to what's what with that. So that's the International Business Assembly. So citizens only. The Jural Assembly, and also meaning you're committed to show up and participate. The Jural Assembly provides the court services and oversees the grand jury, trial juries, officers, and functions of our American courts. That's where it's also everyone is part of the jury pool, a member of the jury pool, and through the jury pool starts pulling through and building the Jural Assembly from there. The Assembly Militia, everyone is a member of the Assembly Militia, everyone, men and women, 21 to 45, or however old you would like to be. It's not like National Guard. It is not where you're going out and doing exercises and fatigues and training with any kind of weapons. There's very small parts of that, and that's only if you're deeper into supporting peacekeepers, and that's still very limited because you're supposed to maintain your own training and knowledge of whatever armory of your choice, right? This is also known out to the public as the Community Response Team, because it's not just about the public safety. So it's focused on promoting public safety within our boundaries. So that's where the militia, everyone's a part of the militia, because we have to, especially right now, we're working with trying to make sure that we have land and soil sheriffs on each of the northern counties to be able to help protect Indianians for the U.S.'s Border Patrol. Okay? So we need some support with that, and that's also coming through the Assembly Militia. Because it's actually the responsibility of the people's militia that are supposed to support the borders from coming in. Okay, it's the U.S. The U.S. can do from that side, but on the state side is where the people have to stand there to be able to support it. and well-regulated militia guaranteed to each state for its internal security. But it's also about teaching first responder, because we are our own first responder. We're going to have to work with cleaning up our food, cleaning up our water supplies. There's a lot that is entangled within the Assembly Militia, because it's all about our community, and every bit of that is within our community. Okay, so more about the General Assembly. So meetings are public meetings. All the General Assembly are public meetings. If there's any private or sensitive intra-state business, the agenda is split and the public portion is closed so that only state, national, state citizens participate. Right now we don't have much private business, but it is that when those times come, it's only those that have actually presented their paperwork as nationals and or citizen in order to be able to participate from that. Whereas everyone can attend the General Assembly calls as long as they just live on Indiana, but they don't have to present any paperwork. But if they're wanting to actually participate in a vote process, there are some things that have to actually go through those that have actually presented. There's a lot of things, though, that they can vote on that don't have to go through that route, that even though they haven't presented, as long as they live on Indiana, they can be able to support in that process as well. All right, so we've worked ways of trying to help figure out how we can be able to support as many layers as we can, but it's also a two-way street as to working with that aspect as well. There will be regular assembly meetings are scheduled and posted in advance. Currently, we're meeting bi-weekly. The first and third Mondays at 6 p.m. are the General and Militia Assembly, because the Militia Assembly meets with everything. And then the second and fourth Mondays of the month at 6 p.m. Central is the Jural Assembly and Militia. The Business Assembly is more so for private, separate meetings, and then that would be once the General Assembly has directed that the Business Assembly needs to meet. So again, drives from the General Assembly. And we have a train going through. It's Indiana, right? Okay, so points of order or rules of conduct for the Indiana Assembly have been adopted and are discussed in the etiquette part of the presentation, as well as there's a link to the points of order as well. The General Assembly is a committee of the whole, and all other committees within it are subcommittees. So even if it's a Jural Assembly Committee or a Militia Assembly Committee, they're subcommittees of the General Assembly. Okay? All subcommittees are formed, like I said, in the General Committee so that everyone has a chance to join the committee. Right now, the Federation coordinators conduct the General Assembly meetings, but there are roles that can be supported to be able to help lighten that load. All right, some of the recommended committees. Hold on, let me see any. Doing well, John. Thank you. Hope you are as well. All right. Okay. So, some of the recommended committees. We need to have a General Education Committee. This is producing educational materials and programs for the general membership and public. And that's an ongoing thing of working through to come up with that material. It needs to be put into helping to be put into a format to be able to support that. There's also new member orientation committee that would be supporting these calls here to provide support and educational guidance for new members to overcome prior indoctrination, fear, and dependency issues. There would be mentors within this committee so that others could be able to contact those and talk directly with mentors to get support and help them, as well as helping to be able to connect, so that because the more you immerse yourself in with those that are like-minded, again, means you have to show up and not just watching the calls later or It's actually, even if you're like now, because like with John being on the call, he's connecting through the chat. That's engaging, right? Now, assembly calls, we hope he's going to show up and actually come on free conference calls so he can be on camera with us as well and actually be at the table with us. So, and that's where, because we have General Assembly call this evening at 6 p.m. Central. All right, then there's the events committee, and that's planning and executing events, meetings, including elections. Okay. An outreach committee is also a part of this, and then they would connect with the events committee to be able to work with the scheduling of outreach events as well. But elections are set up through the events committee as well. So that would be a key one. That is it's General Assembly, but it's relative to the election. So again, a reminder that everything is driven through the General Assembly. A records committee assists and oversees the recording secretaries to ensure that the paperwork is coming through properly, ensuring that there's no parse syntax in any form or fashion, regardless of whatever good reason for trying to come through with parse syntax, whether it's not in the autograph but somewhere in the text, or it's in the autograph, it will be rejected. Okay, no parse syntax for any reason. And of course, making sure that witness testimony and documentation is presented correctly. So the records, in that way, the records committee is overseeing the recording secretary. So if any corrections need to be made as to the recording secretary's training, to make sure that they're implementing things correctly as well. We all have to help support each other for that accountability. And then there's also the Treasury Committee that assists and oversees Treasury functions. And it's simple in and out called carriage accounting. Okay, it goes by calendar year, it's not fiscal year, and there is no, it's not about debits and credits or anything like that. It's literally ins and outs. Okay? Very simple, not too complicated. Oversight Committee, Ombudsman Committee, Vetting Committee. Here's the General Elections and Quorums Committee. And of course, Office of Marshal at Arms. That's a big one, because that is to ensure the safety and decorum at all meetings and events. Caretakes the flag, works with the Elections Committee to secure ballots. Okay, again, this is through the General Assembly, but the drivers start through the General Assembly. All right, the business assembly. Any questions on that one before I jump around? Let's see. Okay, I don't think so. Oh, I don't think that's okay. All right. So the business assembly. So, which, by the way, we're looking for nationals that have tech skills and various ranges of tech skills for different areas. But if you have tech skills, and if you haven't presented your status correction, please present your status correction. But please, we are looking for some for nationals that can be able to help us with getting helping to keep all aspects of tech in play. Right now it's me. So hopefully anybody that's out there that does have tech skills, and again, doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be like, administrative level, but that would be great as well too. But, social media skills, posting to YouTube, things like that. Okay. All right. Business assembly. Business assembly meetings are relatively rare. But will become increasingly important as the state gets to where it's standing, because then they will actually then start having those communications. These meetings are open to state citizens who are the only ones with standing to vote on the international interstate business under considerations. This committee is composed of state citizens and is responsible for conducting international business for the Assembly, including setting up the state of Indiana organization needed to complete reconstruction of the Confederation and Federal Republic. Now, yes, you do see it says state of Indiana, but this is the original spelling variation that it is supposed to have. And that's where it went to territorial to jump into municipal. And we're bringing it back to its original correct state. Also, committees then for international is International Security and Education Committee. That's a big one. Reads and assess international global new trends, keeps up with security issues and concerns. This committee is briefed on international issues impacting the states of the Union, may make presentations and recommendations. So that's one that would keep up with current events and present to the Assembly if it's would affect Indiana in any way. And Congressional Committee. And you'll be able to read more about those. All right. Then the General Assembly it's a standing committee. Its meetings are organized by the active state citizens and state national members of the General Assembly. Okay, all of whom are qualified jurors able to serve on both the grand jury and trial juries or as officers of the courts. Okay. Now, if you're interested in participating either as a juror or there's also justice, but at least check juror. Okay, in your member record, LRO member record, you're going to go to Participate tab, select Willing for juror. Make sure you check all of the abilities that you have too, because like if you do have like IT, IT is a broad range, but something, that's where you can put that if you have even like social media skills. I don't mean to degrade. That takes a lot to be able to work through that. But something like that, check here, and this helps us to be able to sort through, to be able to help connect to see how we can be able to do that. All right. Which, by the way, if you're in your member record, you don't want to be on a mobile device because see how many tabs there are? It does not scroll. Even if it pivots to landscape, it does not scroll all the way across. You will not get the rest of the tabs. Okay? Alright, here are the recommended General Assembly committees. So, Court Venue Committee, Law Education Committee, Jury Pool, Court Oversight. I've also put here because the Court Venue Committee seeks accommodations for the courts, negotiates use of our public buildings for this purpose, and it's the Court Venue Committee that serves the notice that our public courts are restored to invoke Ex parte Milligan. 2 U.S. 71. Here is the link to this court case. It is on Indiana. Please read this. There is no reason why Indiana should not be leading this. Where are you? The link is here in the presentation where you can either copy and paste it or it'll be a link, and as you can see, it goes to a link. And read that. All right. When we finish in the General Assembly right now, we're reading the Common Law Community Training Manual establishing the reign of natural liberty, a common law and its courts. When we finish reading through it, we're going to be reading that in the General Assembly. So join us. Right? All right. But you'll want to print that out so you can keep a copy of that and can read it whenever you have an opportunity, because that'll be important to help you. Other committees that are housed under General Assembly is the Sheriff's Corner and Litigation. Litigation is key, is going to be helping to clean up Indianians from coming from the U.S. and clean up that mess. All right, then the Assembly Militias, all able-bodied members of the Assembly, all able-bodied, men and women. If Terry Som, she's the one that moderates with Anna on Anna's Monday night webinars. She has that. She makes the point that if you can pass a bottle of water to hand it to someone that's next to you, you're actively supporting your militia, okay? Because this is the community. Either as active militia or serving in supply, communications, or administrative positions, things like that. Militia can be referred to as community response team to those outside of the assembly. Because that's what it is, though, too. We are responding to the community. Because it's the community encompasses the people, right? Our assembly militia will soon maintain a schedule for training, conduct exercises, and business unique to the militia. Okay, so in your member record, LRM member record, and again, it's under the Participate tab, check militia. Make sure you check militia. Okay, if there's anything else here that's listed that you're interested in, make sure you check. But make sure, if nothing else, check juror and militia, because you are all included in the jury and militia. And check which of any abilities that you are willing to share. So militia committees there's a membership committee, provisions committee, education, and operations committee. All right, so assembly officers, let me see, are there any questions before I transition to this officers? No. Okay. All right. Thank you for holding on. If you're still here, I'm greatly grateful to you that you're still encouraged to move forward with this. Okay, so assembly officers needed, state and county level. So there are different designations. So you'll see ASN or ASC for state or county level. But it has to be, they have no dual loyalties, no licenses that allow for dual loyalty. Each license evaluated as needed, right? And there is a background check prior to being elected into an official role. So if it's an elected office, there is a background check at the time of being presented to go before the ballot. And all support is volunteer, remember? Because it's we the people, of, by, and for the people. Of, by, and for. We all want to get to the for the people, but we forget that it's of, and we remember the of because we know it's the people that gave us all what we're supposed to be doing. But it's that by that we forget, that it's we've been the ones that have failed to fulfill our responsibilities, which has then caused the de facto to get out of control. So that's that sloth mindset. If you look up the 7 deadly sins and look up sloth is not just lazy. They want you to think it's just being lazy, but it's the avoidance of responsibility. And we are just as guilty of that because we have all avoided our responsibility up until this point. And now it's time we have to cancel that out. So here are the different level officers right now at this point. The 3 circled are key ones that are very important that we are seeking for right now. We need a chairman. The chairman is not like a CEO that's actually doing it. They're the actual spokesman, the speaker for the assembly. So whatever it is the assembly is bringing forward, the chairman is the one that is going to be that speaker for the whole assembly. The chairman is the one that will also start sending the letters out to notify agencies because then the assembly is standing up, right? But those letters have to come from the chairman. It cannot come from the state coordinator. Also the secretary and marshal at arms. And for the most part right now, everything is pro tem until we're actually standing up. But we need to make sure that we have pro tem specifically after some of these terms, titles, or of these roles as well. They're not, it's gray. I know it's a mix, but we're working through it. So again, then here are county levels, but we're focusing on the state level first, so that as we're getting the state level, the counties have a template to look at, as well as the counties are populating to get enough people to start building on their county. But you'll see here, each county also needs these roles as well. Counties need county director, outreach director, and some of these roles can be filled now as well if you're not able, because it might be overwhelming to see from a whole state perspective for some of this stuff. So some of these we can, if you're able to and want to start with your county, we can look at starting with your county, depending on how many's on your county yet, in order to be that have presented their status correction to be able to support you at that point. Okay, so what are the 4 pillars? General Assembly, International Business Assembly, General Assembly, and the Assembly Militia. Okay, any questions for the next segment? All right, we'll keep moving on. Okay, so I have down here is the link to the Assemblymen and Women Points of Order, so that you can see what the etiquette and conduct is as well as assembly, from an assembly perspective. And then there's the affirmation of purpose and conduct as for you to complete as to how you'll present yourself. So we'll go through this. So points of order. The Indiana Assembly has adopted points of order for assembly meetings in order to provide guidance to the principles of conduct, honesty, and integrity expected of all participants in the assembly concerning their duty under the public law. We all provide openness and accountability necessary to reinforce public confidence and stability to the way in which the men and women of the Indiana Assembly perform their public duty to the whole and self-governance. So our American form of government is not a democracy. We're owed a republican form of government. So you've got to break out of democracy. We're owed a republican form of government, which requires either a unanimous vote or a 70% majority vote. All right, the key points to remember on points of order. Conscience must be free and clear of any outside influence when voting on any order or motion. And there are 7 principles of conduct identified by the Committee on Standards in Public Life. Selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. Okay? And you'll review those points of order with those within the Assembly Points of Order. And the link is on slide 34. So what's the purpose of the points of order, and what are the 7 principles of conduct? So purpose is to memorialize and encourage the principles of conduct. And we have selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. This is what we're looking for. If you don't have this, you can go to a municipal or district assembly. This is what we're looking for here. So the Assembly Affirmation of Purpose and Conduct. The Assembly's Affirmation of Purpose and Conduct is required to participate in the General Assembly motions or orders. We view ourselves as a community of self-governing, we the people, as opposed to the corporate model that we've all been indoctrinated into believing is normal. So think of it as something like the personal mission statement that you were asked to make in last week's call. It simply reinforces your commitment to the goals of the assembly and puts it on the record that you're willing to work towards the lawful reconstruction of our government. And it's not a contract. It's not any kind of agreement. You're making an affirmation of what your purpose is and how you will conduct yourself. So we have a window of time to fix this mess. It's not something that, albeit it took more than 160 years, it doesn't mean we've got 160 years to fix it. No, we've got to get this cleaned up ASAP. Consider the efforts being made here. We can only skim the surface in these 3 classes to provide very basic foundation. But this is just to help prepare you to join in the reconstruction of our true government. We ask you to please make a commitment to daily study, seeking out answers regarding how you will self-govern and what does that require. We the people are the actual de jure government of, by, and for. We are the people. That means of, by, and for. Don't forget the of. That means you have to do something to bring it forward. Will you put in the effort to properly reconstruct our lawful government no matter what it takes? Will you complain and give up, or will you focus on the bigger picture or the lawful reconstruction of our republic? Okay, so what is a republic? So you know exactly what you're doing here, since we've been blinded by democracy and saying that it's the same thing. Well, republic is a form of government where the sovereignty is vested in the people and is delegated to the servant government. So the sovereignty is vested in the uppercase people, which are the citizens, and then delegated to serve to the servant government. And so the people support the servant. The government is the servant, not the people. Democracy, a form of government where the minority has no rights and the majority doesn't need them. Mob rule. Here are some videos that explain republic versus democracy to help give you a little more clarity on the two. And you need to start remembering that in your verbiage. I don't know how many people I'm watching on videos where it's our republic, and then they immediately switch into democracy. So we got to be there to help each other. We're not condemning people. We're not calling people, oh, you're wrong, you're using the wrong words. No, you're helping to be that brother's keeper and be that accountability partner and say, hey, this is the correct word we need to use. We're the republic. We're not in the democracy. If you want to support the democracy, you can go out there. Okay, any questions? All right, we'll continue with this next segment. Okay, so committee-based organization and what it means, and then we'll go through some more about the militia and info on the post office. So the 4-pillar review. So review the committees. Here's a link to Anna has given us of committees, the way we work, and recommended committee structure. So it'll give you a little more detail, insight as to within each of the committees as to what work is there. Militia, we went through the LRO accounts. Please create your profile. Don't forget to set up your email address that we talked about in the second slide. Let's see, we're on page 43, so we can go back to that. But we talked about that right here. We have had to change email servers for our newsletters, so please go here. Even if you think you just signed up for one through Ionos, This is a new server because even that, it meant the emails were corrupted through there and getting blacklisted because people were still not going through and following and confirming. So please make sure you go to this link. Alright, so we'll get back to where we were. Alright. Also, you'll want to check in the Telegram. We've got the group new member orientation or channel new member orientation within Telegram, and there's a subject post office, and there's some more links in there of information. And it's new, so it's still also more things are being populated as we go along. Alright, so a review on the 4 pillars. So we have the General Assembly. That's a public gathering. Everyone actually coming to the call to actually want to be able to speak and participate in that manner will come on free conference call to have a video of you as well. Comprised, now as we get bigger, obviously it's going to be we'll have monitors in the various chats, because not every, of course, free conference call supports up to 1,000 on the call. I want to say that's one of the differences with it. Anyway, so the General Assembly comprised of state national, state citizens, and vetted U.S. citizens that show interest in the Assembly. Okay. So as they're learning to work through the paperwork in that process. Most interstate business is done through the General Assembly. Again, it's the driver of all of it. Everything starts through the General Assembly into the other 3 pillars. International Business Assembly comprised only of state citizens voting on matters regarding international business. Anything outside of the state that's connected to this, that's relative to the state. Militia Assembly. Building this assembly, as you bring people from the public to private, the majority of the people are the militia, because it is the people. Unless too young or too elderly, there are some things, but for the most part, there's something you can still do. Something. Juror Assembly. By joining the state Juror Assembly, you're agreeing to serve as a juror and act in the capacity of a state citizen. This jury duty is the fundamental building block underlying the public and organic law of this country. Alright. To start. We're a committee-based organization. Committees have no special authority aside from the subject matter each committee is responsible for. So the General Assembly will agree to form the committee. Then the committee and the General Assembly determines what the topic and subject is for that committee. Then the committee then determines who's going to fill the roles and get to work with it. And then as they're going through, they're reporting back to the General Assembly what their work has produced. Committees are where the work actually gets done, so thus no armchair quarterbacks, as Anna puts it. We are committee men and women. Committees are all equal. There's no one committee that is more perceived power than the other. They're all a part of the whole, working toward one goal. All committees are considered subcommittees under the General Assembly structure. So again, any committees under the Business Assembly or the Juror Assembly or the Militia are subcommittees of the General Assembly, which is the committee of the whole. From Anna, be prepared. Our American assemblies don't operate as corporations, and they don't have a top-down structure with a CEO at the top of the pyramid. American state assemblies operate using multiple committee structure to get things done, and the assembly chairman is a spokesman, not a CEO. Again, all committees are formed within the General Assembly. Most are comprised of nationals and citizens. although dual loyalties and dual citizenship prohibit some from chairing committees. But they're still able to participate. What's qualified participant? One who has completed their paperwork, is recorded and published, and can verify by producing the records, completed all the additional notices, if applicable, and letters. And one who has lived on Indiana for a year and a day. All committee men and women need to be vetted to this standard. No exceptions. It affects the land and soil jurisdiction if it's not done correctly. We have learned that we need to give our committee men and women a strong foundation and understanding of what we are reconstructing. We have all been indoctrinated to some varying degree by the very act of recording and publishing our status correction. We've purposefully left behind the British territorial citizen system and the municipal feudal system. So be mindful that we're not reconstructing the very thing we are escaping from. We're no longer subjects and slaves, so no need to unlearn and deconstruct all of our previous held beliefs. So we need to unlearn it and deconstruct it. They govern by consent alone, and they need us to believe that they're our true government, that they actually have any authority over us at all. In reality, we're their bosses. Pay attention and think about it. That's a volunteer system, just like this is a volunteer system. So you can't have an in without an out. They may try to move the cheese, as Anna calls it. They may try to move the cheese as to where that out is at, but the out is there because it's voluntary. Alright, so you want to review the recommended committees within the link that's on slide 42. So see which one you would prefer to join, one or more. Try not to overload yourself unless they're connected and you would be able to. You don't want to have official roles in multiple committees. That would create a conflict of interest, but you can support others, but truly you don't really want to do more than one if possible, because that way you can ensure you have enough time that you can give it the full attention that it deserves and still meet commitments with your family and family life and work life. Okay, so please don't try to overstretch yourself and then you just can't possibly do it and still try to keep up with everything that's going on in your own personal life, and then we lose you anyway. Okay, so just find one good place that you really feel you could just really dive in, and just try it for a little bit. If it's something that, as we start, you'll know more as more get involved. But the more you step up and show up, the more others will step up and show up. That's what they're looking for, is to see others stepping up and showing up. Showing up. That's key. Showing up and being a part of it. Again, it's great to go back for the recordings to make sure that you're keeping up, because life is crazy and it's not always easy to commit to every single meeting, but it is real value when you can actually be there. Okay, militia. What's the militia? Current roles looking for militia: coordinator, marshal at arms. Each of the 4 pillars and counties will have a marshal at arms, but then there's a overall state marshal at arms. And then there's the community response training organizer, and so these are citizens for these particular roles because they're lead roles, but there's other roles within that are national roles as well. So let's get clear on what the militia is. It's guaranteed to us in the constitutions, all 3 constitutions. It's not what the word has become associated with. It helps each county and state when there is an emergency that hits anywhere in Indiana. That's also a natural disaster emergency. It's not just about a protection as far as needing to have any form of weaponry. It's about overall protection and support. There could be a storm came through and you need to help people with clearing out trees out of their yard. Or a tree landed in their house and they need help getting that taken care of. We're going to be there first to be able to help them. If there's a fire, it would be us. The neighbor right there would be the first one that could get there quicker than a fire truck could get there to be able to help. That's all part of the militia. Militia involvement, 21 to 45. If you're over 45 and still want to participate, you're welcome. And you can start training at 16 with the militia. Isn't that going to be great to see that? At some point we'll be at that stage where we will have those that are 16 to 21 that can be able to start doing that training as well. Oh, that's so exciting. That's truly the next generation of getting things corrected. That will be an amazing day. Think of it as the people coming together to protect and or defend during an emergency or disaster. Pay attention. This is also where, of course, now I've drawn a blank of the young man, and I'll come back. Spirit will bring it back if it's supposed to. Okay. All right. Again, your land recording office member record account. That's where you're going to put that you want to automatically check juror and militia. Everyone's a member of the jury and everyone's a member of the militia, and we can go from there, right? And make sure you select any skills that you're interested in and any other roles you might be interested in as well. The LRO account helps with two basic functions. It helps to know how many people are on the land and soil, and it helps the Federation offer services to those on the land and soil easier. You're free to publish your records on the LRO or with that county recorder that's there. But setting up an LRO account is necessary. It's not that it's free to publish your records on the LRO. It's $25 to publish to your status correction to the LRO, unless you did go to a county recorder and publish there. If you did that, then there's no fee to publish your records on the LRO. If you publish on the LRO, you don't need to worry about creating another account. If you published using one of the other methods, have your recorder enter your nationality, recording, and status information. If you didn't want to publish it to the LRO because you did publish it somewhere else and you just don't want it on the LRO, you need to let us know so that we can make sure. Otherwise, it's an additional public record for you, right? Everywhere you have an opportunity to put that on a public record and it can cure time, you want that, right? All right. Any questions? This is going on YouTube. The recording will be on YouTube, right? The playback will be on YouTube, as well as the assembly has its links. For free conference call has the playback there, as well as YouTube. All right. So that's where you'll have the playbacks. And again, it's also listed on the assembly. I'm not always up to date on getting them posted into there, but I make sure that I get the agenda link put into the YouTube description, if nothing else. So, and trying to keep up with making sure that information stays out there. And so periodically then I'm catching up. But the websites, assembly website and athomeonindiana.org will have it as well. All right, so now we have Post Office, USPS, Post Office, U.S. Post Office, and USPS. Not all the same. So our lawful court of record, the Post Office is a branch of the military, Postmaster General. Notice that Postmaster is all one word. We, the people, have a lawful constitutional contract with the municipality for the post office. customs, all related services to ensure the mail is delivered securely to its destination. The municipal government services contract was with the Holy See, of which the Pope is the ruler. The Vatican was created in 1929. Can you believe that? The Vatican was only created in 1929, and how big it got. And is the only lawful contract we have for municipal government services. Their jurisdiction was strictly within the District of Columbia. It wasn't supposed to branch out. So why registered mail with stamps when we're mailing notices, letters, etc. to public officials? Stamps are lawful money backed by gold and keep us in proper land jurisdiction. Meter mail is fraud. A dollar stamp on the back of a court recording ensures it 100,000 and guarantees it goes where it is intended to go and doesn't disappear, or the full force of the post office will rain down on those responsible. Your autograph written on the diagonal through the stamp in red ink cancels it. The judge cannot ignore it. Now, I ran into issues with that aspect of autographing across the stamps, and the postal workers were getting seriously nasty. So what I did was I included a 2-cent stamp below and did the autograph across it with the thumbprint. And that way the actual postage portion isn't actually affected, but yet it's a stamp, and a physical stamp that cancels it out at the same time. So it meets the need. All right. Registered mail is the original secured mail. Your package stays in a locked cage, safe or sealed container while transported. Okay, so you get, for the most part, you get the idea of registered mail. However, that's gotten to where, because it has to do so much secured transferring, they purposely delay it. So Anna has said if it's something that has to go to a court of record for the court clerk for something that's going on with a de facto, send it USPS or send it priority mail, and they will accept that, and that way you're also getting a tracking number that is your verification of proof of sending it, and it's the record number for it. And bear in mind, again, it's some things we're having to update because we have to do what we can do to work through what's in play now. All right, the first United States Post Office established as a national public postal service under postal treaty with all other member nations designated Philadelphia, Pennsylvania as our seat of government, and so it remains today. Operated and owned by the United States of America, unincorporated. The United States of America has its own post office, run in tandem with the U.S. Postal Service, while the U.S. Postal Service runs side by side with the municipal USPS. One post office, 2 postal services, and last time I counted 7 different hats for the United States Postmaster to wear, including international and global offices. The United States of America, unincorporated. We fly the United States civil flag of peace and maintain the United States Post Office, while you notice that the Title IV war flag flies at all U.S. post offices and all USPS service centers. You, as a postmaster, you handle your own mail, buy, sell, trade, carry, and deliver mail all the time, have the right and ability to send yourself anywhere the mail goes. Check out Article 1180. All right. Ritenour. Kyle Ritenour. That's the young man that I was thinking about earlier, of when our militias for the group from 16 to 21 to bring forward young men like him with the bravery that he showed and the fortitude that he held and still holds. Okay, so here are articles from Anna. Here is a particular article that'll leave your head whirling, and then here's 2 articles supporting for U.S. veterans as well that also gives a little more information about postal. Okay, USPS is the IRS zone enforcer and zip codes. The federal government utilizes the zip code to prove that you reside in a federal district of the District of Columbia. This is why the IRS and other government agencies, state and federal, require a zip code when they assert jurisdiction by sending you a letter. They claim that this speeds the mail, but this is a sly and subtle trick. It's also prima facie evidence that you are a subject of Congress and a citizen of the District of Columbia who is resident in one of the several states. So you are not a resident. You do not hold residency. Okay? Again, that's a term to correct in your own terminology, your own vocabulary. Here's a link from Richard McDonald that gives more detail about the zip code. The zip code address is presumed to create a federal jurisdiction or market value or a revenue or market venue or revenue district. So this is why you're canceling you're revocating the election to pay taxes with the IRS. And this is so that you're taking back your original jurisdiction. By canceling that contract, you're no longer under federal jurisdiction. Receiving your mail with a zip code is one of the requirements for the IRS to have jurisdiction to send you notices. The government cannot bill an Indiana citizen because it's not within the purview of the municipal laws of the District of Columbia. In fact, the Internal Revenue Service has adopted the zip code areas as internal revenue districts. And if you do a copy and paste, Federal Register Volume 51, number 53, 1986, copy and paste and put that in your search, you can look that up. Remedies: get a post office box or try getting general mail service at the post office. They're supposed to not discriminate, but most USPS locations enforce the internal revenue zones and don't honor that. This is why we use in care of before house numbers and street, and why we close the zip code in brackets or write zip code exempt. There's other you'll see in the fee schedule another way to include RFD with the zip code in brackets, things like that. You'll see different ways to be able to support you. But that's when you're communicating with the de facto. When you're communicating with the land and soil, we need to know where you actually live on the land, hence the point land and soil, right? Alright, Post Office Department was abolished. Public Law 91-375, August 12, 1970, an act. You can also copy, paste that in, and look that up. Reorganized and abolished the Post Office Department. Created the United States Postal Service, a corporation-like independent agency, subcontractor, authorized by the U.S. Government Services Corporation. So this is where they subcontracted it out instead of performing the actual services. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, Congress assembled that this act may be cited as the Postal Reorganization Act. So they were acting under color of law, not constitutional government of the people. But they had to leave a remedy to access the original post office so they can claim it was voluntary on your part. Not that they actually did it, but voluntary on your part. Alright, so we need to wrap this up so we can get a few minutes before our 6 o'clock General Assembly call, 6 p.m. Central. Alright, so here are links of that you'll want to bookmark a lot of these so you can actually get in and use them. You'll be using them frequently. Here is all the assembly links on in one place. And here is a great ongoing weekly call from the California State Coordinator that shares, "Yay, I'm on the land, now what?" So you can be able to follow her on Rumble. So before the next class, make sure that you've actually gone to the new email server, which is no longer Ionos. It is now Zoho. If you did it with Ionos, you need to go to this one now for Zoho, because all the 500 and some emails in there, over 400 were immediately blacklisted by the free email providers. So it affects the number of emails in the contacts, as well as how many emails can be sent, even though the recipients aren't getting them. And you have to actually do this. This is all part of their anti-spamming policy. You can't give me one permission and I go in and check all the authorizations for you. No, you have to actually do this and go through the confirmation process. It took me a good 3 or 4 times to still, even though I went through the first time to confirm reporting not spam and then confirming the email, I still had to make it a regular practice of checking the junk and spam mails, because there were another 3 or 4 emails after were still going in there that I had to actually select return not spam for it to finally get to where it was populating by default in the inbox. You're going to want to review the information in the PowerPoint, and attached documents are the links within it. So, and that's how the meaning for attached documents. Review the points of order document. The link is, I can't remember which slide it's on, but it's on for assemblymen and women points of order earlier on. The assembly structure list, it's on with the committees. No, the assembly structure list for the 4 pillars, so you'll be able to get an idea, and committee breakdown. And review the affirmation of purpose and conduct. The link is earlier on. You'll want to print that out and autograph. Put your thumbprint seal, scan as a PDF, and email it to me, the coordinator, at indiana-coordinator@americanstatenationals.us. Also, review the list of recommended committees. What committees would you like to join and why? Review the whole PowerPoint. Think about what self-governance means to you and be ready to share your thoughts. And think why did you even want to get involved in this? Start bringing that and formulating that into words to get clarity. All right, so in summary, the 4 pillars: General Assembly, Jural Assembly, International Business Assembly, Community Response Team, the Militia Assembly. We went through the points of order adopted by the Indiana Assembly, affirmation of purpose and conduct, and Indiana Assembly officers at the state and county level. Again, here's the link for the new email server from Ionos to Zoho. So you'll see Zoho, Z as in zebra, Zoho, and you'll know that so that you can get your email confirmations. All right. Any questions? It's the end of this call. Internet purchases. Right now, it's difficult trying to deal with putting addresses online, because that is they've got coding parameters already set in there, and a lot of times people don't even have coding. It's where they've bought a template that includes that code, because they don't have that coding experience, so they're not able to add in whether there's care of or if you can put a bracket in. It's like they require you have to check United States. So there's some things that you have to pay attention to it, because you can try it. Some may let it go through, but most of the time it doesn't. It'll kick back saying no, only alpha and numerical characters or something or certain specific special characters. So get a PO box. Yeah, for your communicating with the de facto, any external relative to the de facto. So you have a means to communicate and you're not using, because they see your home address as a location to come pick you up, but they don't see it as an address. They see it as a location. Yeah, that's what I said. Get a P.O. box. I'm just saying, don't use your P.O. box information for like the address within the LRO member record, so that we know actually where you live. The P.O. box is so when you're communicating with the de facto, sending your notices, things like that. All right. We'll go ahead and end this call here. I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you, John, for being with us on Carroll County, and all those that go back and listen to the recordings. And again, show up, even if it's coming on and commenting and putting and being here through the comment section. But engage, participate with us. All right, we'll see you on the next call. Hopefully it'll be the 6 o'clock call here in a half an hour with the General Assembly. Peace and love. Have a great evening.